Today, we will be discussing note and rest values. We are probably all familiar with their common names, so I'm going to discuss the formal title given to each. I'll begin by briefly discussing 4/4 meter. Okay, before we talk about the note values, I wanted to explain what is meant by 4/4 time, 4/4 meter, or 4/4 time signature. That's basically a marking made at the beginning of a piece of music that tells you about the counts that you're about to experience when you're performing something or reading something. All right. So the top number is a 4 and the bottom number is a 4. And that's literally how it appears. It's not a fraction where a line is drawn through the two. It's literally just a number atop another towards the beginning part of a staff. You'll have your clef sign, key signature, and your time signature. All right. So here we have a 4 on top of a 4. Each number tells you something. All right. The first number, which the top number, excuse me, means how many counts per measure. All right. So it literally means if it's a 4, that's 4 counts in a measure. If it's a 5, it's 5 counts in a measure. For our usage right now, we're limited it to just 4. So we don't have to overthink it. We just need to know if that number changes, then the number of counts per measure change. All right. Then we have a 4 at the bottom, and it tells us what note value receives one beat. For what we're doing right now, we're only going to say a quarter note is all you need to know equals 1 count or a quarter rest. Anything that's a quarter or a crotchet will equal 1 count. All right, so in the other ways you would see the expression, you'll actually see the words common time, or you will see a C kind of like the one that I've drawn here. Either way, it all means the same thing, which is 4/4 time. 4 beats in the measure, quarter note receives 1 beat. All right, so we're going to dive right in to these note values. You have the note value, its common name, the official name, the number of counts, and the corresponding rest. All of that is here. All right, so we have a circle with a line on each side. That is our double whole note, okay? Its official name is brev, and the number of counts it's worth is 8. And the rest that goes to it is just kind of a block placed in between the third and fourth lines on our staff. All right, you take those lines on each side away, and we have a whole note, which is a semi-brev, that's worth 4 counts. It is a top hat, so to speak. It'll be on the bottom of the fourth line of our staff facing downward. All right, then you take that same circle, add a stem to it, and the stem can face either up or down. If it's facing down, it has to be on the left side. If it's facing up, it has to be on the right side, kind of like it's drawn. And either or is still a half note. The official name is, well, common name half note. The official name is minim. It's worth 2 counts. Its corresponding rest is a top hat, facing up. All right, and it'll be on the third line facing up towards the fourth line. Our next note value is a quarter note. All right, same circle from before, just shaded in, stems like it is on a half note, no different. But it's a quarter note, the common name. Official name crotchet is worth 1 count, and the rest kind of looks like a 3 or sideways M. Well, however, you have to internalize it so that you can recognize these things. You just do that. All right, I don't have any problems with it. I go with a 3 or a sideways M. You might see it differently. All right, the same dot stem, then you add a flag, is an 8th note, also known as a quaver, that is worth 1/2 of a beat. So we would need 2 halves to make a whole. So keep that in mind, is that this is worth half of a beat, not a 1 beat or trying to figure it out. It's literally half. And for those of us who've counted anything before, we know down, up. So that's your 2 halves. Down beat, up beat, half, half, down, up. All right. And the corresponding rest to that is kind of the number 7 with a little knob on the end of it. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. All right. Then you have your next note value is a 16th note, which is the same dot stem flag with an extra little piece in there. It's like an extra little stem. Now, sometimes it's a full flag that goes out and touches the tip of the other flag. but it will also appear like this as well. All right, same concept. Facing up, it's on the right. Facing down is on the left side of that note head. 16 note, it's called a semiquaver. It's worth 1/4 of a count, meaning it would take four of those to equal one count, and that would be one E and a, two on the down, two on the up, one E and a. The corresponding rest to that is the same seven you saw before with a dot on the end with an extra stem on the inside. Now, you may want to call it a backwards F. Whatever it is you got to come up with to make it stick with you is fine by me. All right, and last but not least, we have the 32nd note, which is the same dot, stem, flag, extra stem with an additional extra stem. And I kind of opened it up on this side so you can see it a little bit better. Now, it may be three flags right all together that go to full length, like I said, with the eighth notes. But just know that when you look at it and it's got those extra pieces, when it's three of them, it's a 32nd note. If it's two of them, it's a 16th note. If it's just a flag, it's an eighth note, okay? All right, so this is the 32nd note. It's called a demi-semi-quaver, is its official name. So if you ever go anywhere and somebody be like a demi-semi-quaver, you need to know what they're talking about. And it's worth 1/8 of a count, meaning it will take 8 of these to equal a single count. The corresponding rest for that looks just like the 16th rest with an additional stem. And mine's a little wonky over here, but I just want you to get the concept. And when you see it, you will know it just based off of this. I'm going to upload some screenshots and some things and some supplemental material as well. But I just want to make sure I talked you through these note values. All right, I wanted to provide some context on some things. Like when I spoke on the time signature, I said how many beats per measure. Well, we may not know what a measure is. A measure is the space between two bar lines, okay? It's this space on the inside of two bar lines. And how do we know how far to space our bar lines? Well, that 4 counts in the measure tells us after a duration of 4 counts, place another line or place a line. That's pretty much how it works. 1, 2, 3, 4 counts in all, bar line. Boom. All right. And of course, I put the word bar lines here and I drew some arrows to it. Then if you move over, you see something called a double bar line. These function the same way, but they normally mean the end of something, okay? If you see them, it's the end of a section of music or it's the end of a song altogether, but they happen after 4 counts and you're ending to go up to 4 counts and boom, double bar line. All right. Also, I mentioned something about the direction of stems, right? And it's just a simple rule. You got 5 lines that we've already covered, equaling 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If it's on the 3rd line, the stem can go up or down. If it's above that 3rd line, then the stem has to go down on the left. And if it's below, the stem has to face up on the right. And that's just to give us continuity in our writing. Now, what direction you will want this stem to face is based on the note that comes before it or the note that comes after it, whatever looks well in the notation. And that's what all of this stuff is about, is providing notation that people can understand. So don't get caught up in, certain things. It's just a matter of giving presentation, because that's all music writing is taking musical ideas and putting it in a form where people can understand it who may have never met you before. All right. Now, this is something to note about 8th notes and 16th notes. They have that same dot and stem from a quarter note, but you can beam them together. Now, this probably, if to the untrained eye, looks like 2 quarter notes connected, but it's not. When you see them connected like that, that is a pair of 8th notes. And that shows you kind of visibly where that down up I just discussed a moments ago, that down up. But I think that's TT that they use in elementary. Quarter notes will be ta, 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 T, T. Or I believe that's what it is. I could be wrong. I don't want to quote it wrong. But those are our 8th notes that that look like quarter notes, but it's not. So you have your dot, your stem, dot, stem, and then they're beamed together. And that's literally just our one and, all right? Or two and, three and, whatever count it falls on. And I wanted to note that the 16th looks the same, and I just used one pair that had the stems facing downward on the third line. And if you look really closely, it's that same line connecting for them that beam together. You know, you got your dots, your stems, and it's a beam, but it's a second beam in there. There's a second beam connecting them, and that's how you tell the difference between 16 notes and 8 notes. I didn't use 30 seconds, but if it had been 30 seconds, it would have just simply been an additional third line. And I'll show you. I'll put that in there. So if it was a system of 30-second notes, boom, you would just add a line to it. That's reflective of 30 seconds.